A recent report has revealed that regulations in place to protect us from poor water quality in our rivers are outdated and inadequate. This is important to highlight now because there's a public consultation on this issue that closes in 6 days on the 23rd of December, and this is your opportunity to share your views on modernising regulations. So to help you, here's a bit of background about designated bathing status and some insight into why standards are not fit for purpose today. Bathing status was introduced nearly 40 years ago, focusing solely on bacterial risks during May to September at popular swimming spots. Back then, water companies were publicly owned, and most of the risks we know about now were practically unheard of. This made basic testing sufficient, but the way we use our waterways has drastically changed. We're not just swimming seasonally, we're paddling, kayaking, fishing, foiling, and we're doing it all year round. And exposure to hazards has also got worse. Last year alone, over 2.4 million hours of untreated sewage were discharged into our rivers. This increases the risk of bacterial exposure, which is tested as part of bathing status standards, but it also exposes us to risks from viruses and parasites like Cryptosporidium, if you remember the contaminated drinking water in Devon last year, for example, and increases our exposure to things like heavy metals, antimicrobial resistance, toxic chemicals, dioxins and PFAS, which have been linked to certain cancers and hormonal disruption. Sewage effluent isn't the only source, but it does give you a good idea of the scale of what we're up against. And despite all these risks, bathing standards still only test for 2 strains of bacteria, leaving us as water users exposed to unaccounted risks. The UK also lags behind international standards for testing things like PFAS, whereas countries like Denmark are already testing for them in their bathing waters. The Office for Environmental Protection, who wrote this report, is calling for year-round monitoring, improved sampling, and better protections for all water users. The government is consulting on it, and like I say, there's just 6 days left for you to have your say. This is your chance to demand that bathing water designation is fit for purpose today for all water users, so that we can rebuild confidence in our waterways and their impact on human health.